So we're just going to get right into it today. So it says Top Gun Maverick passes Avengers Infinity War at the box office. So basically, this movie is still making money week after week. 600 and $83 million at the domestic box office so far.
Speaking of Giga Chads.
Yeah, I know, right? Surpassing Avengers Infinity War, which is, I was very surprised. And I do want to talk about the highest grossing domestic films of all time today. That's a big part of how surprising a lot of this was. But it makes me ask a lot of questions about where we need to be going as far as filmmaking, because we're also going to talk about some of these projects that have been announced, and I'm going to weave them into this discussion that I find absolutely hilarious. So imagine that we were looking for the next big Top Gun. That's what we're gonna get into.
Brett, I feel like you would make a fun teacher sometimes. Like, I feel like we're coming into your media studies class and you're like, okay, we're gonna play this exercise. Like, what would beat Top Gun?
Well, why do you think I wear a cardigan? It's a cardigan.
Is Brett the teacher that will take the students outside and sit on the lawn? Do you think?
I had professors that did that, and it was the best. This is Brett for sure. Except for the fact that we're live and there's audio equipment, and Brett would have to like switch to live streaming from his phone.
Yes.
That's the only reason he wouldn't let us go outside. And it's raining right now.
We could do that. So it says Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise and Joseph Kosinski have taken Thanos and topped Avengers Infinity War at the domestic box office. Top Gun 2 moves to the number 6 position on the all-time domestic box office charts as the flick has brought in $679 million, surpassing Avengers Infinity War, which is $678.8. In the number 5 position is Black Panther at $700 million. I think it could get there. I mean, it could be one of those things where they'll end up re-releasing it. Like, they'll be like, come back and see it again
in 3D.
For the first time. I know that. I'm not sure if you guys know that Spider-Man: No Way Home is literally coming back out in theaters with additional scenes.
So
thank you.
If you get multiple releases, does all that get added to like the top?
Yeah.
To all the man. So I hope that No Way Home, like in its second release, beats Star Wars.
Well, that's what I think. I think the goal here is to get it to 2 billion national. Let's look at the numbers here. So this is what's really funny. A lot of people don't realize that the highest grossing domestic film of all time is still Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Endgame did not beat that, and those came out around the same time, sitting at $858 million for Avengers: Endgame, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens is $936 million, which is insane. And Spider-Man is at 804. So I don't think it's going to. That would have to make it like another $136 million, and I don't think they're going to be able to do that with No Way Home, even with the 11 additional minutes of footage. But I do believe that what we get here, if I switch here to the worldwide box office, and basically what it does, it breaks down the numbers as to like your domestic gross and your worldwide gross.
Okay.
And if you look at the numbers for like percentage domestic and then percentage foreign, one thing that is very unique to to both Spider-Man: No Way Home and Top Gun Maverick is they both have their share of domestic of their total gross being domestic is high in the 40 percentile. Most of these other movies make it to $1 billion or $2 billion because of overseas box office, right? So Spider-Man: No Way Home had a 42.3% domestic total share of the box office, and then Top Gun Maverick had 48.7% total domestic. So that's even surprising to me. I would have thought that number would have been a little bit higher.
Another question. Typically when they do like re-releases, is it like domestic only or is it like international as well?
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question. That my guess is that it would be domestic only, but I can't say for sure on that. So a lot of these other ones, Jurassic World is 39.1%, so that's fairly high on the domestic box office one. But if you look at movies like the number one movie, it was Avatar, only was 26% of it was American market. So maybe whenever like we talk about if Avatar 2 is coming out, we're like, Avatar 2 is coming out. And then you were like, who cares?
Yes,
like,
I fundamentally don't care about that. I was going to ask you, do you think that when filmmakers or studios are deciding what to release, they care about the domestic proportion? Because arguably, as we know, sometimes studios or directors or whoever's behind it alters films to better fit a foreign market to make sure that they are able to capitalize on that on those viewers. Whereas I would think that if you're an American-based studio, it would be better to make a movie that sells more domestically because you probably don't have to pay international taxes on it. I don't really know how it works.
Well, and then Avengers, the first Avengers at 41%. So I don't know if maybe the future is in going for more, like nationally based films, like more movies that will appeal to the Western market here in the United States rather than worldwide appeal, because as we know, it's impossible to appeal to all groups, right? It seems like when you try to make everybody happy, you end up making nobody happy, right?
Yeah.
Big recurring theme.
Yes. So I want to talk about these new movies that are coming out, or at least these ones that got announced. And I want to know if this is where you see the market going. If you think anything like this could end up being the next big Avengers or the next big Top Gun Maverick. So the first one we have here is Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. That's right. The stars of the yet-to-be-seen but much anticipated, at least by Hannah Claire and Mary, Barbie movie.
Don't lump me into this.
You want to see the Barbie movie?
Do I?
Yes, you do.
What?
Didn't you say that?
No, I've never said that.
Am I being
You
misogynistic?
want to see the Barbie movie?
Yeah. Am I being misogynistic and just assumed?
Excuse me?
I could be misogynistic.
I
right
mean,
now.
I'll go see it, but like, I don't remember being like, I must go see it.
Mary is very excited to see.
I'm
the
not
Barbie
Mary.
movie.
I don't know how many times I have to remind you of that. I know you think all women.
Shut up,
look
Mary.
the same.
So we're getting a new Oceans movie. So like Oceans 11, Oceans 8, the heist films. And it says the post Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling to star in new Oceans movie appeared first on Consequence. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling recently completed filming Barbie, but the duo will apparently be back together on a studio lot soon enough, according to a new report from Puck. I checked the Puck site. It's very annoying to read. Gosling has agreed to star opposite Robbie in a new Oceans prequel, and you have your own theories about what this means. What do you think this means?
What?
Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie.
Oh, okay. Well, so before the show, Brett was like, we're going to cover this topic, and I was like, you know what? I think it's interesting that this is his like second movie with Margot Robbie. He might have done one before, but before that, I knew Ryan Gosling from being in a bunch of movies with Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And I have this theory that his wife Ava Mendes, who he also met on a film set, is like, you can only work with approved women. Margot Robbie, totally fine. She's married. She talks about her husband all the time. No questions there. Emma Stone, probably have a great relationship altogether. Like, she's friendly, not threatening. I wonder if he is like specifically only allowed to work with like certain women, and that's why he keeps getting recast with the same
Dude,
women.
that was so funny because I was literally thinking that, but on the other end of the spectrum, I was like, he's looking for an upgrade.
Oh, really?
Hey, it's time to get a new wife.
Now I'm picturing.
No, I think it's like a sort of Vice President Pence or Vice President Pence-esque. You know what I mean? Like he's like not, he doesn't, but Pence doesn't go to lunch without his. Yeah. He's never alone with a woman without his wife present or without someone else around.
By the way, that rule makes the more sense.
It makes so much sense. Everyone made fun of him, but it sounds 100% legitimate.
100%.
And I feel like with this, like no one is going to accuse, as far as I know, Ryan Gosling of doing anything funny, probably because Ava Mendes is screening his female castmates and is like, approved, okay.
He comes home. She's involved. He comes home and he's like, I got this new role to do a movie with Amber Heard. She's like, no. She's
like, not today. Reject it.
No.
Okay, my thing is, to return to the thesis question, though, what movie could top Top Gun? I think we have to ask ourselves, why is Top Gun so successful?
Exactly.
So the director actually talks about it in one of these like articles that we have pulled up. And he says basically like it's because it's character driven. Mm-hmm. And I have to agree with that. This episode I'm not going to mention Breaking Bad. I'm going to mention Mad Men instead. And in Mad Men, it's a timepiece. Do you guys know what Mad Men is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as most of you know, or like some
oddly
of you,
enough, both things with John Hamm in them. Top Gun.
John Hamm rules. Very handsome.
Yes.
It's a timepiece, and it's one of these shows that does, you know, it has some woke elements, I think, but they're so subtle, and it's because they do something that's called, it's like show don't tell. And the scene that comes to mind is that there's a moment where in the agency where they're going to post an ad about how they're an inclusive company, by the way, like in the 50s or 60s, in a time where it would have actually been bold and brave to do this. And they just do it to like spite one of their like, I think, advertising agency competitors. And then after posting the ad, it shows like the protagonist like going down to the lobby with like filled with like African Americans like lining up for jobs, and then the scene is meant to impact you because they do it as like a castaway like action, and then they realize like the consequences of their actions, and they're like, oh wow, like these people actually need jobs.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you get some knowledge of the time, you get some like a big like oof, like wow, like right, like this is where we were. And instead of like a girl boss like crying like I get paid 77 cents to the whatever, you know. And so I think Top Gun, it does that in spades. And the additional thing that it does is that it's a movie about mentorship. And it's one of these rare movies where the protagonist leads by examples and that wants to not only like put himself above everyone, like his purpose is to like help his students.
Also, he's not degraded by the younger students either.
He is in a scene, but it's hilarious. And I feel like every like woke piece of media is all about like self-serving. It's like, this is all about me and my struggles and my everything else.
It's very individualistic.
Correct. And he is like nationalistic towards the next generation. I have to like heal like a past wrong that I've done. And so I think all these things and the general like hero's stories arc is what set like Top Gun past
I think
all the movies.
The other part of Top Gun is that it's not a fantasy Marvel made completely on a green screen movie. Like, I understand probably parts of it are.
That's a huge part of what they talk about in here is the fact that you're actually in the cockpit with actors, which
Well,
helps you connect with them better.
That's not the point I was going to make. I was going to say, instead of it being like on a fantasy planet in a fantasy world with, you know, creatures that don't really resemble you, and I don't even know what's in the Thor thing, like some rock people. I don't know. It's actually very much of American lore. Like, this is an elite institution, right? This is like the best of the best. And like, there is, not everyone would necessarily be in these places, but it is in a country you recognize, with people who are familiar to you, with a language and a vernacular that is real and something you can relate to. I think that people are tired of overdone fantasy metaverses. I think people want to see their real world in the movies that they are involved in, especially because it was such a sentimental favorite from the 80s. I think having it, one of the reasons it's successful is because it stands, even though it is technically a sequel and I often am opposed to them, it is actually a very fresh movie compared to a lot of what's being produced right now.
So one of the points I wanted to make was Ocean's 8 did actually, I made a joke to Hannah Claire once that they talked about Ocean's 8 like on IRL and said that it didn't make any money when it actually did. The movie only cost $70 million to make. With your marketing budget, that's about $105 million. It brought in about $297 million.
Well, Miss Hannah Claire, what do you have to say for yourself?
I didn't say it didn't make any money.
I don't think it was you.
I think it was Tim.
Else. But the point I want to make is that
I said that I quoted John Mulaney, who had this joke about being like, you would never have an all-female Ocean's cast because two of them would keep splitting off to talk shit about the rest of them, which is real.
So I want to, and then the other ones that we have that were announced was a Ferris Bueller spinoff, which the saving grace of this concept is that it's coming from the creators of Cobra Kai, who have thus proven that they know how to make this type of continuation work without screwing it up.
I understand the point you're making because I know Cobra Kai has been successful. I haven't seen it myself.
Have you seen it?
No, but I've heard good things, and I also think that largely came from the writers of How I Met Your Mother, who made their like Barney Stinson character always be like, the villain is actually the hero of this movie. But I know this is my favorite soapbox to get on, but like, why can't we make movies with new things?
Well, that's where my next question comes in. What I want to ask is, I have a separate one for either of you. We make fun of you for being a nerd who reads a lot of books. What is an adaptation you would actually like to see brought to the screen?
I honestly can't think of one because I think, like, there are plays that I think could be cool movies.
Then let's go with that question.
I can't think of one off the top of my head I'd want right now. The Importance of Being Earnest is an Oscar Wilde play that's like a classic, and it is fun to see stage, and there is a good movie version of it.
Okay.
In some ways, because plays are action-oriented. With books, sometimes you have to cut out the details, and the details are what makes books vivid and meaningful to the individual reader. With Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I think again we're tapping on the same thing as Top Gun Maverick. It is a real world. They're not going to suddenly have aliens descend from the sky, right? And I understand that's a whole genre, and I'm not saying you can't like those movies, but I think what American audience members are hungry for right now is a sense of like pride in the country and to see their real life reflected on screen.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting, I push back against the concept of representation a lot, and that actually kind of makes their argument for representation that people want to see. They talk about it in the context of they want to see their skin color,
but that's
their sexuality.
And that totally misses it. They want to see real Americans, like the socioeconomic culture, as opposed to the outward appearance of race or culture.
And I think like representation is often like misinterpreted as well. Like for example, again back to Mad Men, like back in imagine a 23-year-old Dane. Like I was a copywriter, and in the show there's a female copywriter, but I identified so much with like her struggles of like people just coming up to her and be like, hey, just write this, like write, your job's easy. And you know,
which
it doesn't have to
her sexuality and her gender.
Exactly. So like, what am I supposed to only relate to like 6 foot like pale Puerto Ricans? There's not a lot.
That's like if you take those arguments to their logical conclusion, I should only identify with short white guys from the Midwest, right? Which is in movies that means like the movie Mighty Ducks, and that's about it.
Well, first off, Mighty Ducks totally solid.
Solid.
What I was gonna say is one of the best parts of Top Gun Maverick is when they, spoiler alert to anyone in there, like at the end when like the heroes get out of their planes and everyone's excited and you get these shots that kind of are allusions to the previous movie. Like everyone feels like they won. You know, you feel psyched at the end. We want to leave movies feeling not just like, oh, that was a fun suspension from time, but feeling like, yeah, that was like invigorating
America.
To watch. And I think that movies aren't grasping that. And I think, you know, I don't think Margot Robbie and what's his face in a remake of Oceans, another overblown franchise, is going to do it. I think that Ferris Bueller, I could see some nostalgic because at the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you have the same like kind of like unity, like this is kind of this fun adventure.
I think if
feeling.
I think if they play both if they play the male role like an actual good male character, and the female role plays a good female character, I think that it could work. I don't have much faith in the industry at large right now to be able to do that. I did have a question for you, Dane. I asked you about.
Oh, wait, I think it's just missing the like victory element. Like a lot of movies don't have the sense of victory at the end, and that's what we want.
Yeah, that's more black and white storytelling, which we don't have a lot of these days. And I wanted to ask you. I asked her about books, and we went to plays. What is a video game adaptation you would like to see?
Only if it's treated seriously. Only. I mean, like top actors, top writers, everything. Final Fantasy VI, like multiple part movie. And like for those that don't know the game, let me tell you why. First off, it's a movie where the villain wins. You only get revenge at the end. So like the disastrous.
That's more gray storytelling, like we were just talking about. No,
but it's like you end up defeating him, but like the world that he wanted to bring eventually got brought. So and there's like, and it's also one of those games where there's no essential protagonist. It's like an ensemble.
Yeah.
And all of the characters.
They love ensemble cast now, so that might actually be good for marketing.
And I love them too, because like in real life, no one's a protagonist. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone's the protagonist in their own
story. And then you have a bunch of characters that interlace and interact, and like you keep thinking, oh, this is the protagonist, and then another one gets introduced, like, oh no, this one, and this one, and then ultimately like the objective is the protagonist, which I love. And the thing is, like, there's a bunch of actors that I could see doing key roles. The biggest one of which is like, so the villain is called Kefka, and he's basically like an insane clown army general. And I can just imagine, what's the name of like the really cool Batman from the Christopher Nolan movies?
Which one?
Christian Bale.
The guy who plays it?
Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale, like he's like a method actor, and he would be freaking perfect in that role because the character has a lot of depth. Because A, he's like clinically insane. B, he's like power hungry, like beyond comprehension, and like filled with rage, like absolutely filled with rage. And it would take a guy that can go there and like the lengths of emotion, and I think he could do it.
Okay. The other thing I was thinking that somebody mentioned Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game that came out recently. I thought that would be lend itself to an adaptation. I was thinking about if I was trying to take their what would I want to adapt, not new, but like if I was going to use the Hollywood model of like something funny where they take an inconsequential character like the Ferris Bueller's Day Off spin-off that they're talking about here, and then spin it off to something else. I would like to see them, just for the fun of it, to see them take the character that Rachel Taylor plays and then Anthony Anderson plays in the original Transformers movie, where she's like British or Australian computer programmer lady who's like way too hot to ever be a computer programmer. Sorry. And then Anthony Anderson plays typical Anthony Anderson character. And given the politics of culture right now, those two characters would actually be really, really... I think the studios would love to see something like that. I don't think it would actually work, but it would be kind of funny. Also, I would like to see them have done the Tatsu spinoff from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which would be very, very funny. So I don't know if they're going to be able to catch up to Top Gun Maverick in the studios, because I don't think that at the studio level they understand what made it special. I think Jerry Bruckheimer does. I think a couple of other people do, but I don't understand or expect the industry as a whole to kind of get it.
There's two types of ensembles, in my opinion. One is it's like the Pulp Fiction ensemble, where like every character is born to play that role.
Yeah.
And there's another type of ensemble, which is
that requires writing that allows them, that creates distinct characters, and I just don't have a lot of faith in writers to be able to do that these days. It's what I hated about it's one of the reasons I hate most of entertainment today. She-Hulk was awful.
You need a Tarantino to be like, no, it has to be this song and this actor, and he says the pejorative because it's in character. I don't care if it offends anyone. That's the purpose. He's a bad guy.
Yep.
So that's one type of ensemble. The second type of ensemble is the Netflix ensemble, which is like the Member Berries ensemble. It's like, hey, remember this guy? Remember this guy? And that shit sucks.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think everyone agrees that's because it feels, everyone knows that it's inauthentic.
Chat says ensembles are self-care.
They are not. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.